Yes!
Hey.
Gothic 2, 3 playthroughs, let's just get this over with.
Okay, just a warning beforehand. The beginning of Gothic 2 spoils the ending of Gothic 1, as it is pretty much a direct follow-up.
After the final boss of Gothic 1, the temple comes down on our hero's head and we unfortunately didn't make it out alive.
Roughly 2 weeks later, the necromancer Zardus teleports us out of the forced-on burial, and surprisingly, the hero is still breathing thanks to the magic ore armor he obtained in Gothic 1.
This, however, didn't come without costs. Our hero has forgotten most of his skills and being buried for 2 weeks has weakened him tremendously.
The reason Zardus brought us back to begin with is thanks to 2 new threats that need to be taken care of.
Keep in mind though that the focus of this game's story is definitely on the dragons. The game has about 20 to 50 hours of gameplay. The remaining 10 plus hours are spent in dialogues.
Unless you skip the dialogue.
Oh, I f***ing did.
So what was the voice acting like?
I think the English version of Gothic 2 is better than the one of Gothic 1. And even though a lot of the voice acting is even more of this...
No, but I reported it to the militia. But they haven't been able to find him yet.
It has at least been somewhat improved, especially in regards to the hero of this game.
I bet they're dying to make your acquaintance. They're not very happy at all.
Also, the German version suffers from a few hiccups here and there.
Und die ganzen guten Sachen werden jetzt an Land gespült.
Although those are definitely exceptions in over 12 hours of recorded dialogue, and it's still the language option to go for, as the German version actually has really good voice actors.
I can agree with that. You might say the English voice acting gives the game its own atmosphere, but it's nothing against the German version in terms of delivery of the lines. Now that I think about it, what is the deal with the whole gold thing?
The original Gothic 2 was really easy, so the developers soon released the add-on, The Night of the Raven, which rebalances the entire game, introduces a lot of many new things, adds an entire additional campaign, alongside a whole new world. Although one of the changes makes the game slightly uncomfortable.
Whenever you pass a limit in skilling and ability, the cost will increase by 5 additional learning points. Meaning that you may have to spend about 15 learning points just to get those 5 strength points. I'm not really a fan of this, to be honest.
I think the best way to enjoy this game is with the original Gothic 2 leveling system via the so-called LP Minimod, because I don't really like this system either. Oh, by the way, I did complete all 3 playthroughs with cheating twice. The game bugged out on me and I intentionally abused a glitch in the endgame of a mage playthrough. Gothic 2 in general works basically like Gothic 1 did, just more comfortable.
The comfort changes to the controls also extend to both control options while you are playing Gothic 2.
The advantage with the older control scheme, however, is that it's much easier to do side swings, which is very important for the late game, while with the newer control scheme that gets very difficult.
Just try out both playstyles at the beginning and then set yourself on one control scheme. In this game, having a good amount of skill is always important, as you can theoretically defeat every single enemy without skilling anything.
This is one of the better working aspects of the game, but rewarding the player for his skill at fighting is something that Gothic 2 excels at, especially in combination with the extended world design this time around.
Don't you want to say what the differences between this and Gothic 1 are first?
Oh right, almost forgot about that. Quite a lot has changed. You have a backstab that dodges almost everything, and you have a block that won't work against animals. One-handed and two-handed weapons can now be learned individually. Every hit deals at least 1 point of health damage. A critical hit system for almost all humanoids is in place that you can manipulate by using learning points to go beyond 100%. There is a crafting system as well as much more complex quest design. Magic was enhanced and a little fine-tuned. And there's a lot more, like the reworked fun thievery system.
That sounds overwhelming, but the game introduces its mechanics slowly to the player, who absorbs the information one bit at a time. It also helps that this is still, in direct comparison, a more simple old-school RPG.
But if you think this game is any easier than Gothic 1, then You're wrong.
This game can be ridiculously difficult, and it is that way for most of the game. It's just that the controls are... You can get used to them, but they're always clunky and feel a bit unresponsive. But then, on the other side, you have the most immersive gaming world with an overall really nice but repetitive ambient soundtrack and a world that feels alive.
Atmosphere is one of the strong aspects of this game. For example, forests get the triple D. Dense, dark, and dangerous.
The game tells you throughout its own environment which areas you might want to avoid for now, and which areas where you can relax for a bit.
Also, always keep in mind that the game doesn't give you the option to buy endgame spell scrolls for no reason. It makes the beginning much more pleasant if you're not hoarding. Speaking of abusing something, while this game is perfectly playable, you will experience glitches that will both help you and drive you mad. What were some of your personal favorites, Jim?
Shooting through walls?
The death lift!
NPCs just standing in place doing nothing?
Soft locking the game by talking!
The game crashing.
That can happen. This can also happen.
Why not monsters dropping from the sky and dying? Spells missing because of bad hitboxes?
Which happens a f***ing lot!
Dead NPCs suddenly appearing in the world?
Even better! NPCs dropping dead right in front of you! One of my favorites is by far the sprinting glitch. In terms of structure, in comparison to Gothic 1, Gothic 2 takes much more time to kick your ass!
It's by far not a flawless game, and while I was often tempted to just quit and call it a day, the challenges I overcame always rewarded me either with more experience both as a player and in-game, or with more items to use, and more things to do and kill things with.
Chapter 1 is the hardest. Chapter 2 and 3 help you to be ready for the challenges to come, though they can be very tough too.
In Chapter 4, the main story shifts into focus, rather than just being a goal to eventually reach, which quickly continues throughout Chapter 5 and finally Chapter 6, though Chapter 4 through 6 are shorter than the previous ones for the sake of constant progression.
However, the ending is a cliffhanger and might be confusing if you don't have all the information.
You get said information by playing through the game as a paladin, as a dragon hunter, and as a fire mage. Each route gives you different lore details.
Unlike Gothic 1, Gothic 2 entertains you all throughout the game with path-unique side quests and presents you with a different secondary antagonist. The paladins fight orcs, the dragon hunters fight the army of evil, and the fire mages fight the magical nature of the enemy, with each giving you more information about every aspect of the enemy.
Also, the game is now better adjusted towards mages, as you don't have to skill anything combat related until you can use magic. You have to learn how to craft the runestone for the spell. Then you have to gather the materials to craft the runestone. Then you have to craft the runestone. After doing that, you have to check if you have enough mana points to use the spell.
The percentage meter next to your melee skills is the percentage of a critical hit, and their damage adjusts to your strength. Bows and crossbows adjust to your dexterity, while I am pretty sure that these numbers are basically your hit percentages on medium range.
We could go into much more detail about the crafting and praise the beautiful world design, and how with each chapter, new enemies are placed into the world.
But instead, we would rather like to take the time to go into the quest design and the quest rewards, as well as some secrets to make the journey easier for you. A few at least.
Trouble getting into the city Corinus on the island Corinus?
Why not climbing over the wall, which I just can't get fucked?
Why not just climb over the gate chains?
Swim into the city.
If you talk to a certain NPC in a little valley at the beginning, you can sneak in as an herb collector.
And there are even more ways, and this is just one of the side quests with a lot of effort put in.
Although the main story doesn't change, you will unlock different dialogues and quests to your chosen path.
You can easily abuse Gothic 2.
Just use the surrounding mountains to lead enemies to their death by committing suicide.
Or use stuff like fences to take them on one by one, which helps a lot.
Wait, what?
You can get over 1000 mana points as a mage without spending a single learning point. All you need is the magic staff you can buy from Gorax and a stronger weapon that you can equip. This staff gives you additional 20 mana points to use. If you have this staff equipped while transforming into an animal, the game will automatically switch to a stronger weapon, but it will save the additional mana points to your base stats. Meaning that with each animal transformation, you can gain 20 mana points.
Didn't that also bite you back?
Yeah, unfortunately it did. I had a weapon that granted me additional critical hit percentage, but instead of increasing it, it decreased permanently with each use. Also, as I found out about it on accident, I decided to restrain myself from abusing this until the last main quest of Chapter 5 started.
What did you mean by cheating?
The other time I cheated was because I couldn't loot dragons as a dragon hunter. Although I did have a glitch in my first playthrough that I was suddenly able to loot all animals out of nowhere.
So, shall we round this one up?
Not just yet. As you noticed, the graphics look old. And I had to record the game with only medium graphics due to issues in the video files. I think the graphics still don't look too bad once you're properly set in the world of Gothic 2.
Don't forget to save. This game will pull you in, which makes you forget about time around you, and it also makes you forget to manually save. Too bad the game never fully tells you about that.
Now we can round this up.
I came in expecting this to be a mess piled on top of bugs, bad voice acting, and limited game development. The first chapter of the game was pretty long, and if you know what you're doing, the rest of the chapters can fly by quickly. I gave this game easily more than a few marathon sessions, finding it hard to put down once I got into it. Even if it was rough around the edges and in a few places, I can say that I don't hate this game. I like it, and that is after losing 8 hours to a death at the hands of diving down a ramp to my doom because of a glitch. The game rewards you for learning to play, and I like that. I would complain about backtracking, but the game gives you runes as early as the second chapter to quickly travel around. Yes, it needs a patch to make it run without crashing on modern systems, but that's to give you a chance to actually enjoy this game. I gave it an 8 with a must-play rating.
Yes, the backtracking, especially at the beginning, is very annoying and very tedious. Also very long. But it gets much better later in the game. Gothic 2 is still one of my favorite games of all time, even after having first played it 12 years ago. Honestly, even after 92 hours of recording Gothic 2, I still wouldn't mind doing another playthrough, just with a mod to bring back the old leveling system of Gothic 1 and 2. Well, classic. Of course, I recommend playing the German version. But always keep in mind that Gothic 2 will absolutely test your frustration limits at many points. And it's easily twice as difficult as Gothic 1. Also, the game has many glitches. You'll die many times without it being your fault, but in return, you will experience a sense of character progression and a feeling of true satisfaction once you're actually becoming strong after biting your way through the game so many times, just to become the strongest character in Gothic. I'm giving Gothic 2 my favorite medieval fantasy 3D action RPG so far, a 7 with a recommended rating.
Believe you me.
See you.